Hello, I'm Jelelle Awen, and this is the third video in my Deepen 2020 series. And it's okay if you haven't taken in the other two, although I'm feeling that they build on each other. So in the last video, I connected you with your inner protector and your castle, your essence, and we talked about feeling your pain as a portal. So a means to understand yourself and your soul, a means of self-discovery and openings. And as I was feeling into what to do for this video, I felt that there's another aspect of that reframing of your pain as a portal is to begin to really tune in and acknowledge and become fascinated by your emotional body. So let me explain a bit more about what I mean by emotional body. So I feel there's a lot of emphasis in our 3D culture on our mental bodies. So what we think, what we know, what we can learn, even relating to our emotions from our mental body, which is more about analyzing them, thinking about them, tracking them, understanding them, labeling them. I think sometimes parts of us can get caught up in that mental body relationship to life, to our emotions, to our relationships. It's also, I feel, an overemphasis on the masculine that our 3D culture has cultivated for a long time. So the feminine qualities of the emotional body are not as emphasized, right? We're not initiated in our emotional bodies. We're initiated in our mental bodies. So that's one distinction. Obviously, our physical body is clear to us. That's our vessel that we walk around with. But even when we relate to our physical bodies, it's usually in a mental way. So it's thinking about them, or it's diagnosing them in a very literal kind of way. And I have nothing against the physical body or the mental body, of course. It's about bringing these bodies into balance. And usually the body that is the most suppressed and out of balance is our emotional body. Because again, we just don't get taught or supported in how to be with it, how to mature it, how to enlighten it, how to awaken it. So even in our spiritualities, there's such an emphasis on awakening our minds. Maybe that's more the non-dualistic approach, and how to awaken our, we could say, spiritual bodies. So much more about our soul and our spirit and how to mature and develop that even than there is about our emotional bodies. So many years ago, as probably most of you know, I was drawn to a process and a group and a healing that offered specifically about the emotional body. And I felt intuitively that that was the area that I needed the most work and development. I've always been quite an emotional person, so very sensitive. And I could cry, and I was in touch with my feelings, I think pretty well. But I had what I would call an immature emotional body. And what I mean by that is an emotional body that had a lot of undigested trauma. Again, having no template about how to digest trauma in my emotional body. My emotional body's always been quite rich and deep. So I had a capacity, I could recognize that. There was a capacity, but there was a lot of still density and trauma and immaturity. So the main parts of me that related to my emotional body tended to be more of particularly an inner teenager energy. So I would tend toward depression, for example, and I would tend toward maybe overreaction or underreaction. There was always like a protective energy. We talked about it last time, our inner protector that's protecting our emotional body. So we'll connect to that today in the meditation, so you can feel both your protector and how they relate to your emotional body and the current state of your emotional body. That will give you a sense of that. So I felt for myself that I really needed to do that work. I needed to heal my emotional body. Yet I wasn't drawn to the usual methods that were offered to do that. I had tried talk therapy, and I know that can be a real service to a lot of people on their path. It just, for me, it didn't go deep enough. It didn't actually get into the emotive grounds. I didn't even know what those two words meant, but there was something about being felt. And if you follow Soulful Heart, the work I offer, then we say that all the time. Feeling yourself, feeling what you're feeling while you're feeling it. We even say feeling into something. So feeling is actually what I have found in working with people and in myself, that we're not doing much feeling. That what we may be doing is a lot of reacting. And it feels like feeling, but it's not actually. Reactivity is very often not actually in the emotional body ground. I mean, it comes from the emotional body. It's usually a reaction based on undigested trauma. So this was very interesting to me as I began to connect to parts of myself. The very first part of myself I met was a hurt part named Evie, and she was very easy. It was very easy to access her hurt. I immediately could feel that she was about 10 years old when my parents got divorced, and I just sat with her. She was sitting in my canopy bed that I had at the time, and just in mourning about the divorce and what was going to happen, and was she going to be okay? Here I was, at the time, a 35-year-old woman or whatever I was, and it was so visceral, I could feel it again. This was not talking about it in a therapeutic sense of it. It wasn't even a regression energy where you're kind of go back to it, but it was really feeling it. I could really feel it with this part of me, and that was all it took. That experience of actually feeling something that I had known intellectually was a trauma for me. And in that feeling of this part of me, I was able to heal that trauma in my emotional body of my parents' divorce, something that may have impacted me in my relationships for the rest of this life, and certainly would have impacted my inner child's ability to express, to be playful, to be magical. I mean, here she was in a bedroom. Like, she wasn't going to come out of that bedroom unless I could feel her. So healing of the emotional body, connecting to it, that's what I have found is so magical about working with parts of yourself, because that's where they live. They don't associate mentally. I have met hundreds, maybe I could say thousands of parts of my own and in other people over the years, and they're not mental. They're always emotional. That's what they're concerned about. That's where they come from. That's where they resonate from. Even the protectors, even the masculine aspects are emotional. They want to share with you about their guilt, for example, or their shame and how they couldn't protect you. Any kind of mental conversation isn't very interesting to them for very long, because what they're really wanting, again, is to be felt in that reality. And I think in a lot of cases, we can feel other people. Maybe that's the empath in us. So my capacity to feel other people was quite developed. It's why I became a nurse, why I became a coach, why I became a facilitator, because I could feel people. But what I knew was missing was being able to feel myself first, to not just be caught up in a reaction, in a cascade of reactivity, but actually be able to feel the part of me that was feeling it and why. So as you become more porous, that's a word that's coming to me, with your emotional body, as you're tuned into and connected to it more and more with these parts of you, then you can feel why the feelings are coming up. An example might be if there was reactivity in me in the past in a relationship and kind of a clinging or a needy energy, instead of going in the reaction of that and judging myself and whatever else would happen and putting it out on the other person, I could go to a part like Evie and feel her hurt and be with her in that and say, I understand you have a need for love. I so feel how you don't trust relationships, that they can be good, that they can last. And the most important relationship I want you to trust is with me. So in offering that to a part of myself, I was then able to actually energize that on the outside and eventually draw a sacred union with Raphael over the last 11 years, to which those frequencies, my inner child isn't present in that way. There's not this undigested wounding going on underneath our relationship. And again, I feel like the reactivity, I almost want to call it an off-gassing from this undigested trauma, is so often what we are calling feelings, when they're actually not. They are an off-gas, they're a reaction. They're undigested frequencies. So the more you tune into these parts of yourself, they will give you, they already are, we could say, in the pure frequency of feeling. It's a frequency for which time doesn't exist. So it doesn't matter that whatever it was, a divorce or an abusive experience or childhood, was decades ago. It doesn't matter in the emotional body. There is no time in the emotional body. And what's amazing about that too is you can even go, our emotional bodies were first, actually. So when we came into this consciousness, we had our soul and our essence and our spirit, and our emotional body was right there with us. It was our mental body that was trained. We were conditioned. This was learning of words and language and all of that. So we were purely emotive. When I feel babies and young children, they're so emotive. They're completely connected to their emotional bodies. This is what we call tantrums. You know, they're so connected that they have no control, right? They have no capacity to manage or analyze or shut down or any of those things. And it's actually quite a miracle. It's amazing. And then you can see what happens over time for all of us is that we become conditioned and templated that we need to control and manage and process and whatever our templating is, or we need to overhold other people's emotions. We can feel other people, but not our own. That maybe is more where you are, where you feel other people quite well, but it's harder for you to feel yourself. Or reactivity is allowed. Sometimes that's a fusion, as we call it, to an inner teenager. Like you're allowed to react to something, but not actually feel it so that it can be healed. And it's the feeling of it, that's what heals it. So even for a young child, if we had been felt in what we were feeling while we were feeling it by very porous, heart-open parents and caregivers, then we could have let it go. It wouldn't become a trauma in the emotional body. It would move, because it really doesn't take very much to heal trauma. I know that sounds like I'm simplifying something. Really what I have found that it takes is feeling. So I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. And it seems to greatly exponentialize the process and make it more efficient and accessible to feel the part, either in the self or the soul, a soul aspect that is actually doing the feeling. And that's what we help you identify in one-on-one sessions especially. We really tune into which part of you is feeling this and why are they feeling it. And then, a lot of what I spend my day doing is just feeling people. I can be pretty smart, so I can come up with some pretty great analyzations and intuitive connections. And as I've been doing more bridging sessions lately with those new to the process, I can tell that goes in, but it's actually that initial feeling of the parts of them and them doing it too, them starting to tune into that, to their emotional body and these parts, that actually creates this magical experience. It creates this lightening. I've heard that so many times, that people feel lighter. There's less reaction to situations and people, especially that were previously traumatizing and created reaction. There's not the same patterns, whatever those patterns are that aren't working for you. There's less compulsion toward them and need toward them as you feel yourself and as you connect to your emotional bodies. So I've been offered many times that really why we are here, why we're going through this current phase of ascension, is to heal our emotional bodies as a collective. That our emotional immaturity is actually what has led to so much of the manifestations that we see in our world right now, to the war, to the environmental damage, to the greed, on and on, to the situation with the 3D matrix, to being suppressed, all to not understanding galactic realities. So much of this is our emotional immaturity that needs healing. So anything that focuses too much on intellectual maturity, such as attaining degrees or certifications, you're actually getting, I feel anyway, out of the purpose here, or too much focus on reaching transcendent states of spirituality or oneness or bliss or kundalini, which can all support the emotional body. They really can. Yet what's the priority? So if there's a seeking of, for example, bliss states, because there's an ongoing suffering and pain experience and reactivity, that speaks to pain in the emotional body for which spiritual access is being used to try to transcend it. So this has become, I can't believe in the last 15 years how much more aware people are becoming of this. And the question, of course, that comes in all of this then is how? How do we heal our emotional bodies? So I have my answer. I have my way. That's what I'm offering with Soulful Heart. You might find your ways that work for you. I do feel, because I have been exposed to many, many modalities over the years, that this way of connecting with parts of the self and this compassionate feeling exchange transaction that happens during sessions is incredibly powerful, yet it's also gentle. And what it does is it clears, again, the local space of this life, the traumas of this life, in order to open out that quantum space, where then in that quantum space, the healing of the emotional body becomes a soul purpose. So it's actually healing the emotional body of your metasoul, of your soul, in all of your lifetimes. So this is not just a therapeutic, let's fix this life. This is actually a bigger soul purpose. When we are free of our emotional immaturity, when we start moving into emotional maturity, and we bring our heart along with us, and it's open, we're open-hearted, it's a beacon, I've been told. This is what so many star beings are drawn to about us, is our emotional capacity, our capacity to feel. So it's not about transcending that capacity, It's about healing it and developing it and nourishing it and watering it. So what I am going to do in the meditation today is a meditation I've done in group calls before, and I wanted to do it today because I want to offer it through Deepen, and it is to connect with your emotional body. And I've most commonly felt and seen this as a river. So that's what we'll do today, and we'll bring your inner protector along with us. So go ahead and close your eyes. Start to bring your focus inward. And I'm going to start bringing in divine feminine and masculine guides with us. So today, for this emotional body process, I see Mother Mary coming in on our left. She is so much the heart of compassion and love. She is such an amazing feeler. So she's here to feel with us. And then I also see Yeshua, Christ, Jesus. I just like calling him Yeshua. Feels so grounded. He's here to represent the open-hearted masculine. He's had to do much feeling and healing of his own lifetime here. And the guilt and other things that he feels from that life. So mother and son energy are here. And we'll also ask your inner protector to join us. This is the masculine energy that guards and protects you. You might see and feel them as a knight or a warrior. We're going to invite them to join us today and give us access to your emotional body. It's this protector that so often is guarding it. They're sensitive to your emotional body. They're protective of it. It's vulnerable. It's your capacity to be hurt, to be touched, to be harmed, and to be moved. You can ask your protector how they feel about connecting you to your emotional body. Feel if there's any resistance or concerns. You might hear some or feel them. We're going to go now with Mary and Yeshua and your protector. We're going to move down a path toward a river. And this river is your emotional body. Notice as you move toward this river if it's kind of feels like a hidden river or even an underground stream, or if it's just right there, accessible. And as you move now to the banks of this emotional body river, just take in what it looks and feels like. Is it murky and slow moving, cloudy? Is it fast moving and swift? Is it kind of frightening current, or a slow trickle, clear water? What does it look and feel like? And as you take in your emotional body and the river, do pay attention to what you're feeling about it. And I got the sense a moment ago that Mary wanted to put her left hand on your heart space. And Yeshua on your protector's heart, if that's okay with them. So you've got some feminine, divine mother, feminine feeling, support in your heart, and some divine masculine support for your protector. Tune into if there feels like there's a bridge between your heart space and this emotional body. If there's a connection. If you don't really feel one, you might feel why there isn't. Has your protector maybe shut that down or blocked that? You might see one or both of your parents and how they are with their feelings. You might feel a dominance if you can feel your head right now more than your heart. That might be telling you that there's been more of a mental filtering of your emotions. If you are crying or emotional, especially if you're in pain, then that feels like you're connecting to your emotional body through your heart, and that there's some pain there. All of it is information, and none of it is bad or wrong. And it all has reason for being there. As you take in your emotional body, I'm going to invite, and I want you to feel if this feels like the time, but I'm going to invite you and your protector to wade into the emotional body river, to go into it together. And if it doesn't feel right to your protector, that's fine. You can stay on the shore or the bank. And if it feels right, you can even take Mary and Yeshua along with you. create kind of a human chain, or not just human, divine human chain. And as you wade in, notice what you feel. It might feel very familiar and comforting, or maybe you're immediately swept away in the current, and that's kind of frightening. You don't know how to be in this water. I see this in a beautiful light coming from both Mary and Yeshua from their heart spaces. Just a pink from Mary and a blue from Yeshua, and these lights are going into your emotional body, this energy. It's kind of like when you're in a swimming pool and there's underground lighting, and it's quite beautiful. I believe it's meant to offer a healing frequency to your emotional body, if you're ready to receive that. There's something about it being from the masculine and the feminine. So you're welcome to pause this video and just stay in your emotional body, especially if you're feeling something right now. I would stay with that feeling and see if you can even connect it to a part of you. Maybe you see your inner child and a scene from childhood, or from being a teenager, or even as an adult. And just go with that and feel that with Mary and Yeshua and your protector. And maybe there's grief to be felt. Just allow the space. And you can use this meditation anytime you need as a bridge. So I'm going to complete there in my guided portion of this, but I do encourage you to stay with it. Maybe even play music now for yourself that helps you feel, that touches you, that opens your heart. And go ahead and open your eyes. And I hope you deepen this journey and you access some deeper feelings for yourself that have been needing to be felt and digested. That is always my wish for people. And thank you for joining me today. See you next time.